Thank you for coming, for attending this Dharma talk. Thank you for all of your help in supporting this community, both by attending, by practicing, and by financially supporting us. We need your help. Please continue if you can. Self-centered mind, the ego mind, the hope and fear-based mind has difficulty with too much space, physical space, and also consciousness or mental. So you can return to that. And quite often what happens when we endeavor to do that, is we see how crowded the whole thing is and how the mind is flowing with all kinds of what my teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, used to call subconscious gossip, just talking to ourselves and about this and that. And I like to say that it's where the story arises and then we start talking to the story. We start telling things to the story about, I like that, I shouldn't feel that way. And we continually either agree with or take exception to or try to push away or ignore, distract ourselves. Stop it. But I'm not talking about some kind of aggressive move. I'm just saying this is what the sitting practice of meditation is about. Over the years, I've talked about so many different things. There's so many topics and concepts and ideas in Buddhism. It's just, as you know, we study them all the time, just about every day. So I would like to recommend that you just return to just the stillness. Do it a lot. And the process of doing that, the action or the practice of doing that, probably will involve a lot of commotion going on in your mind, judgment, ideas, pushing and pulling, daydreams, little stories about this and that and this and who said what and when they said it and what did that tone of voice mean. I'm sure you've noticed that we get so tied up in all kinds of production. So in order to mother, take care of, support, or give nutrition to that aspect of the mind that is just consciousness. There may be forms arising there, there may not. Don't push them away, but just watch them as they move. Watch the thoughts as they come and go. Turn this way, turn that way. Everything begins to slow down after a while. You might have to sit and face the wall, face the floor, face a tree trunk for years. It's called mind training. Are you there? Are you there? Are you right there?
I guess so.
Oh, okay. Your guess is as good as mine, probably better. Does that feel challenging if I say it?
Everything does.
Yeah, well said. Everything does. That's the path. So return to that stillness that may look like commotion for a while, and don't squelch it, don't push it away. It seems to show up as the space around the thoughts, rather than getting rid of the thoughts and try to create some kind of vacuum of stillness or silence. Just look at the space. Look at the area in which the thoughts, the emotions, the feelings, the memories, the hopes, the fears, the constant commentary that's going on in the mind stream. Return to that. Don't maintain it. Don't maintain a kind of stillness, some kind of artificial rigidity or holding still so nothing happens. This is why I don't teach in that way as far as our sitting meditation. There's no one holding a stick over you. The stick just lays here against the wall. It's retired. Not that that wasn't taught in ancient times. There was a different kind of dynamic going on. There certainly wasn't a Mother's Day back then. Must have been a lot of mothers, though. Otherwise, we would not be here. I'd really like to have some questions around this, around your practice and how this looks to you as far as just returning to the stillness. Just sit down and hold still and return to that. You can actually do that while you're walking down the road. You can do that. You can actually do that while you're sitting across the table having a conversation with someone. What's commonly called a conversation. You have questions about that? I would be delighted to respond. Yes, sir. Shodo.
Shodo bowing, when we're returning to stillness, is it a relative kind of stillness, like with the body? What is that stillness?
All of it. Meditation, post-meditation. You will learn how to do that. You could say it this way. It's not about gathering information so much as just seeing that what's moving in the mind stream is everything that is around it, or the space in which it occurs is nothing's happening there at all. Yes, sir.
Shodo bowing, is there a stillness in the mind stream that we can return to?
Yes.
How do we recognize that?
You won't, because it's not something else. You won't, but the intention to do that is what is so powerful. Just sit down, hold still. It may feel silly. It may feel like this is useless. The ego mind will start to chatter at you about it. Do not interrupt it. Do not disagree with it. Do not agree with it. Don't do anything with that chatter other than just what? Listen to it, receive it, make no comment. More?
No, thank you.
I'll stay bowing. It feels like the intentionality to return to stillness separates it from when I'm not being as intentional. How do I see it as not separate?
That's how you do it. Just your question tells me that you're doing what you need to do. You may not get something showing you that, oh yeah, this is, oh yeah, that kind of, yeah, I think I'm getting that. It maybe, probably will be worse than that. Or like failure, because no credential gets built up. More?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
So a few minutes ago, you said that we can be aware or return to stillness even during a conversation. And many of us are going to be with various family members today or this weekend. So what does that look like to find the stillness in a raucous conversation?
It is in the movement, but it's only can be seen or understood, or you could say experienced in the movement if you're not doing anything with it but receiving it. Whatever anyone is saying, just receive what they said, not what you think they said, not something that's behind it. Go ahead, more.
So are you saying as someone speaks to listen to what they're bringing forth rather than trying to find meaning behind it?
Just receive what's there, even the feeling of not knowing. This is why I emphasize in our study groups, and people have some difficulty with this, thinking that when we study, we should somehow know or be able to paraphrase what's been said in a study situation. But it's about receiving that, not receiving it as information that you add up that eventually you're tested on. That's more about controlling people. It's not fundamentally about education as far as the spiritual path is concerned. It leads into, you could say progressively. That may not fit. There might be questions around that will take it another direction, but it's about having a willingness to know less and less and see, experience, feel more and more of everything. There'll be no support for an imaginary self. There'll be no support for anything particularly other than the path as you need it. And this is why we have the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the three jewels, because they're so supportive to going into this space of your own mind stream, your own consciousness, and seeing what this is yourself, not just getting an authority to help you with it. Go ahead.
When you're bowing, so in that space of receiving, is it, well, you also teach us to observe everything, body posture, not that we're reading into it.
Yes.
What,
So you said what, and then your head moved like that.
I'm lost.
That's how it feels. But I'm not lost, and I'm not found. And I'm not anywhere. I don't have a location. This body's sitting here, but there's just that. I'm just watching that. I don't take your head movement and decide what that means. And you're watching my motions. You're listening to my words. You're listening to the tone of my voice.
But then I find the movement of my own mind is almost frantically trying to formulate a question.
That's awareness. How do you think I feel?
Is Punya bowing, is this in this silence, and is that where appreciation and gratitude can
It's a
arise?
good word. That's appreciation isn't so much about seeing the relative value of this opposed to that, but it's just a fundamental openness that everything comes towards you. The whole world comes towards you rather than you go out towards things and try to figure out and look and calculate what's going on. As soon as something comes up in front of you, you meet that where you might not be doing anything. You might just be watching or looking, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching. All of those are open. Just receive that. There's nothing particularly to produce unless you do produce something. And then that would come out of this awareness, sometimes called Vipassana or Maha Vipassana. Great panoramic awareness that doesn't find a thing anywhere. It doesn't miss anything either. The thingness comes and goes. Have you noticed? Like the movement of your head or the movement of my hand. It's there and then it's gone. Mozuku.
Sokubowing, you've been talking about the receiving in relation to the stillness
Yes.
or space. And then just now you said, and you talk about producing out of awareness. Is that also, is that the same thing, the same space, the same stillness? The source and the receiving?
It may not look that way, but if you, going to your question, I would say yes, it is. But it may not look, it may look like something you can't bring together, even conceptually. It won't, it just doesn't work.
So are there two different types of space?
There it is. That's the polarity. That's the duality that continues to show up, that drags our self-centered mind this way and pushes it that way, shuts things down, opens things up, looking for some kind of otherness that we can have some control over. And it is about just receiving that. Don't leave what you receive for what you think it is. Don't leave what shows up for something else. It can feel lots of different ways. It can feel very, very lonely.
Sokubowing, you mentioned earlier the ego chatter about stillness or something. It could be any number of things.
Yes.
Sometimes that shows up as ego chatter, and sometimes it shows up as contemplating the Dharma or contemplating something you've taught. Does it matter as either if it's one or the other?
No.
Is all contemplation of the Dharma ego chatter?
What are you getting at?
I think I want to know how to relate to what I might call pious thoughts.
Just receive it. Just receive it. As Bodhidharma said, as Lisa is recorded, that he said to the, like, what was the emperor's name there? Do you remember what it was? Huh? Wu? Emperor Wu. Said, what, great emptiness, no holiness. Is it bad when the emperor asks, what is this? What is great emptiness, no holiness? How can you make a statement like that? How could Emperor Wu listen to something like that? Yes, sir.
Sokuzan, is any interpretation of something like a movement or trying to look for what somebody says, the meaning behind what somebody says based on fear?
Filling up the space with what it's about. So we have the illusion of control. The illusion doesn't know it's an illusion. And what it also does not know that what it is looking at or observing is also an illusion. It's an illusion looking at an illusion. This is just a roughly relative way of talking about what looks like movement and stillness. Scratching your chin, or I saw that. More.
Sokuzan, what is it to have a willingness to not know and in that interpretation?
What is it? Space. You need more than that? No, you don't. You don't need more than that. That's enough. That's enough. Ask your question. Bien.
Bien, darling. Is this sitting practice and the stillness, is it anybody's but my own?
It doesn't belong to anyone, if that's what you're getting at. The ownership is extra. We put on that I'm feeling this or feeling that or thinking this or have this kind of understanding or that. All the variation that shows up reinforces the illusion of a separate being. And then that is even further reinforced by I'm moving my hand. It's just the movement of my hand through the air and then putting it on my knee. It reinforces the illusion of separation from everything else. But when you begin to see that everything in front of you is also you, you're shaking your head just slightly like this. It's not a yes exactly, but it's just before you say yes. What was that gesture about? Don't leave it. Just tell me what it is without explaining it.
Like a light curiosity.
Good one. Yeah, it is like a curiosity, but it's very soft and it's not demanding. And it's not concerned with results, but it does not miss things that appear as results. In other words, you're actually looking at the illusion in your mind all the time. It's constantly saying, you're somebody, you're over here and you're looking at that over there, or you're over here and you're having thoughts about your thoughts. The thoughts come up and then you have thoughts about them, and it creates the illusion of some kind of a being who is consciousness going through that other illusion, time and space. Look closely.
You knowing if nobody owns this activity of sitting down on the cushion and looking at the wall, why does it keep happening?
But it's what keep happening.
The activity that nobody owns.
This is just consciousness. There's no central authority anywhere. There's no, as has been said way before we got here, there's no center and there's no fringe. It just looks that way. Looks like things are here and then something else is over there.
Beyond bowing is intention mine?
Is intention
Mine.
Yours? Yes, for a while. It's not about getting rid of the illusion. It's about just seeing that it's an illusion. And if you see that it's an illusion, then you actually can dance. You can move. You can go this way and go that way. But there's no personhood there. And if there is, it's just an illusion. Which means you don't, sometimes I say you won't care how you feel. This doesn't mean that something that just has happened isn't devastating to you or really painful or irritating or all the other emotions that can come and go. It just means that it's not real. So therefore you don't have to be somebody else. You don't have to be a different person from the person who's miserable or suffering or having difficulty. You actually can liberate yourself by seeing that there never was a prison, that it was an illusion. It needs to be seen. And if you see it, then everything's completely ordinary. In the midst of something being extremely special and brilliant and glowing and extraordinary. Not two, not one. Yes, sir.
Bowing. When we train our mind, is there an aspect of that that looks like mothering?
Yes, it's what you're doing. You're mothering your awareness. And you can do that. It's Mother's Day, so do that today. You're sitting down and it's not comfortable. You don't particularly like it, but you might have some inspiration from the teacher or from a particular teaching or from the community or the environment that you're in. Might have some encouragement to do that. And you may have to generate it yourself somehow. Just like Sokuzan, as a lot of people come and go into solitary retreats. He's going into one tonight for 10 days. He's done many of those. All he's really doing is he's going to sit there and watch his mind come and go 8 hours a day, or actually more than that, but 8 hours that is scheduled. So kind of mothering and really taking care of what's basically important from the point of view of this path. And that's the awareness, the consciousness, not so much what arises in it. Sometimes we get attached to that and we start thinking that there's a certain teaching that has to be promoted or followed or agreed with. Yes.
Kelsey Bond, is intentionality driven by ego?
For a while, can be. Like even stepping.
Kelsey Bond, what is intentionality outside of ego?
It's just without a self. It's just the fancy word in the teaching would be bodhicitta, the mind of awakening. That aspect of consciousness that is beginning to see that there's something more profound and greater than just my simple desire to get ahead or be appreciated or have someone like me or own something, control something. Kind of so-called self-centered situation. It's just,
Kelsey Bond, what is that version of intentionality intending?
What is it intending? See the truth, to live the truth, to be the truth, to realize it. If you realize it, you haven't realized anything because you are that which you were looking for. There's no credential. There's nothing that's going to confirm that. There will be no authority behind you going like that. You just will know it. And you'll know it right in front of you all the time, no matter where you're at. It never goes away because it is never what? Appeared. This appears. That'll go away. That appears. That'll go away. The thought about anything will arise and go away. But that which has not appeared can vanish. This is a spiritual path. And this is a spiritual realization that is not separate from the path, not the same as the path, not different than the path.
Kelsey Bond, so is that intention just spaciousness?
Yes, that is a way to describe it. just space. But you can't see the space without objects in it. You can't just see space. Have you noticed that? There's always something there. Or is there? If there isn't anything there, how does that feel?
Scary.
So what's left to be afraid? That's why the path works, is because eventually you get right down to the old-fashioned saying from the 50s or 60s, the nitty-gritty. You get right down to just what is the fundamental situation, is that there seems to be a tight spot right here. Me. And there isn't one. That's possible to realize that. That's all the Buddhist path is realizing the truth of what this is, what this is. There is no separation here. Subjectivity, there's no separation there. Objectivity. That's the illusion. You're looking at the illusion, and you don't have to fight with it. You don't have to go to war. You don't have to go to peace. Take no position. Realize it. Nothing will happen. Everything will stop happening. And that which continues to happen is also not happening because it's unreal. One, good question. Continue to take yourself into that fundamental minimalist, radical understanding of whatever is arising in your mind stream. That's it. It's not something else. If you think it's something else, then it becomes a wall. It has to be pushed away, as it says in the Heart Sutra, without walls of the mind. Anybody remember how that goes? I keep getting it. My emptiness dyslexia. The only one that usually is able to correct me here is Yunlong, and he's not here. Let's see. No one else can do that. Help me out. Haoshan can.
Shinmukege.
Shinmukege instead of Mukege Ko. So Shinmukege is the wrong one. What's the right one?
Yes.
Don't get funny. Shinmukege. Shin is mind, and Mu is no. And
Kege, barrier or wall.
isn't that cool? There aren't any barriers other than the ones that are created out of hope for something better, or something over there, or fear of something worse over there. There aren't any. Those we just generate those all day long in some way. And each person does it in a slightly different way. Some people with an incredible ramp of story after story after story on top of stories. And it's like you can't even find the beginning of one and the end of the other. They're just overlapped, laminated to each other. You don't have to do that. You could just enjoy the pleasure that arises in the nerve endings, and you could also feel the pain in the nerve endings. All it means is you're alive. Further questions?
You know, Kabawing, when the mother shows up in our mind, that is the controlling mother that tells us, why did you do that? I thought I told you not to do that. How come you keep doing that? And that shows up. Do we need to get rid of her somehow?
No, just listen. The idea is to realize it, not to control it or get rid of it. Don't do anything with it. It's unreal. I mean, it might be vivid and it might be spiky and it might be right in your face. It might be right in your chest cavity. It could be anywhere, but just receive it. Whatever shows up has its own, it gets its permission from everything else to be what it is, and it's dependently arisen. You can actually realize that amazing teaching, Pratitya Samutpada, is a Sanskrit, I believe. You can realize that yourself, so that you actually know that yourself. You don't have to have somebody agree with you or explain it to you. You just see that whatever occurs in the mind, across the living room in your house, has its It comes there because it's not separate from anything else. It just looks like it is. Sir,
Shanjian,
how do you say your name again?
Shanjian,
What does it mean?
Mountain Stream.
So it actually means mountain valley too. Did I tell you that?
You did tell me that.
Isn't that confusing?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
When attempting to observe what comes and goes, watching a thought arise, it sometimes will just put a stop to it. And I'm wondering what that is.
Can you say that again?
When watching what comes and goes in the mind stream.
Yes.
And bringing attention to a thought that's arising, it sometimes just puts a stop to it automatically. And I'm wondering what that is.
You just described it. It's no more complicated than that. So what is extra is you back out of it and wonder what it is. That's extra. You don't have to do that. Just go into that oblivion. Go into the not knowing. If that's consciousness only. But wondering what that is more of a it's not incorrect in the sense that you couldn't do that. But if you go in that direction, be very aware that you're actually trying to deconstruct something to figure it out. It's not incorrect to do that, but it's very circular. It's just the nature of relative truth is in circles. So the biggest example we have, and it's a teaching in and of itself, if you don't even go into it any further other than just see the planets go around and the moon goes around and the moon gets brighter, and just a constant rotation of existence, non-existence, existence, the illusion of appearing and disappearing, of being someone, something, somewhere, and then being nothing. But that which is doesn't come or go, does not appear, can't disappear, so it can't go. So that's what's being emphasized when I'm saying to you, don't do anything with it. Don't go ahead. Okay.
So, it just feels like there's an aggression or a false stillness there or something.
And what?
In observing the thought and it just stopping, and feels like there's aggression or.
That's that. It's just awareness. It's just part of the path. You don't have to get rid of that. It will do whatever it needs to do. If you don't do anything with it, less is better. So just observe it. You already are concluding something about it, and that's probably part of the whole dynamic. Eventually that will fall apart too, just by being observed. It's not that you're accepting it. I'm not saying that. That creates an acceptor consciousness. Ego. Don't accept, don't reject, don't ignore. Just this. Facing the wall, facing your kitchen table, opening the car door, opens that opening of the car door. Completely sacred, everything. There's no opposite to that. You need to find it. Or not, as you often hear me say, go do something else. You're either ready for this or you're not. If you are, I'm here to help you if I can. Yudao.
Yudao bowing. Is returning to the silence, is that anything like mindfulness? Bowing.
You could call it just about anything. You could call it frog legs. Wouldn't change what it is. What is that poem? A rose by any other name would still be purple. Something like that. I know I'm close to that. More, Yudao.
Yudao bowing. I was just aware that I wasn't exactly sure what mindfulness was. Bowing.
So mindfulness, as I understand it, is just keeping track of what's coming and going, and doing it in a way of watching the breath. Possibly even if you're talking about the classical Tibetan practice of Shine and Laktung, or mindfulness awareness, or Shamatha Vipassana, So one is keeping track of what's coming and going, watching the breath, watching the diaphragm move, and then also watching thoughts come and go. That happens also. It's more controlled than shikantaza. Shikantaza is just receiving whatever is moving wherever it's at, outside the building you're in, and your mind stream. Just receive, observe. Mindfulness is more about keeping track. It is a practice that arises in the midst of shikantaza also, but doesn't do it by some kind of intention to keep track. It does it just when it needs to show up as you're watching something move, but you don't fixate on it and try to maintain some kind of state of mind. Whereas mindfulness awareness practice or Shine and Lakton are more about trying to create a mindful state of mind, to be very clear about and have a feeling that you're being mindful. Not incorrect. It's just a way to start doing that. I recommend that you do shikantaza, as you know.
Bowing, that's really helpful. Thank you. So when we're not on the cushion, is it more mindfulness that's happening than returning to stillness, since we're more active? Bowing.
What do you want to know? I know you already asked me, but I want you to simplify it.
Bowing.
Because I assume you would not ask a question about something you already knew.
I think I'm just trying to know how to understand or talk about the difference between mindfulness and returning to stillness, and whether I'll leave it there.
When I say returning to stillness, I'm saying return to the cushion. I'm saying return to the space in which something is occurring. It could be someone across the room asking you what you want for breakfast, assuming that happens occasionally. It could be that, and it could be seeing the incredible spaciousness of everything, the most mundane, ordinary situation, or the vast, profound situation or understanding that may be arising in your awareness as you literally practice meditation, or as you practice working with the concepts that are coming forth in the Buddha Dharma or traditional teachings. More?
I think what I want to know also is, does it take stillness to be mindful? Does that involve a certain stillness?
You could say that. If you're going in that direction, yeah, it could be said. It was going to be different with different people are dealing with different kinds of passion, aggression, ignorance, different kinds of energy that creates more difficulty, more pain on top of pain, and frustration and so on. So it's not always that way, I guess is what I'm saying. Maybe for you, may not last. Further questions in here? Please don't hold back. Ask questions. Yes, sir.
Sokuzan, is there a conclusion that I'm coming to when I think or see that I can't perceive?
Sure.
What is that?
It's a conclusion. What is it you want to know about that?
Sokuzan, the other day I said that I don't feel like I can receive anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that's awareness.
It is.
What's the difference between awareness and a conclusion?
Same. Well, if you're not aware that you're concluding, then that's ignorance. But if you're aware that you're concluding, you're not exactly concluding. There's still a practice or path quality to that. You're working with that as it shows up rather than what you think about it. And it probably will feel pretty frustrating to not be able to do that. But it's not a performance. It's not something you do and then you admire yourself for how great you are at listening. More.
Sokuzan, how do I continue into that?
Shall I tell them?
How do I continue?
Well, I think you're doing it. You're here. You're sitting here. You're asking a question. I presume you're doing some sitting meditation. Are you doing any sitting while you're driving your truck? I mean, no, it's not really that funny. It is that funny. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just being aware.
Endeavoring to the intentions there.
Yeah, let's just be aware of what's coming and going. Lots of objects of meditation on the road. Question especially from someone who hasn't asked any questions yet.
Navid bowing.
Navid, I really like your hairdo.
Thank you.
like kind of took off the sides. And what was the other comment? It doesn't look like where is Shanyu? Shanyu here somewhere? I don't see him. He needs a haircut. He's around somewhere. Yes, you have a question, sir?
Navid bowing, yes.
Sir.
Is the mothering that you're talking about is the same as allowing what is there to be there? Bowing.
That would be a way of, if you used it like you're the mother and your child was there and just making sure that they're okay, but actually allowing them to experience their world, allowing them to understand for themselves what this is. And it's just to work with your mind in a similar way, to not beat up on yourself because you're having negative thoughts or difficulty, but it's just a returning to stillness, a returning to silence, which might be very noisy, and the stillness might be a lot of commotion going on there, but we have to start somewhere. So that's where we start. If you can hold your body still, not rigid, but just hold still, and then watch how aspects of your body continue to move, that's the stillness. It's not an absolute situation that you live up to and suddenly you don't move an inch. Or further questions about anything, especially around this particular topic of returning to stillness, which is impossible to do.
Jishin bowing.
I want to take Chokodawa's first, Jishin, and I'll come to yours. Go ahead.
Chokodawa bowing. Is bodhicitta and our ego identity not separate?
Not separate at all. Not even millimeter. Not separate.
Chokodawa bowing. Are we as an ego identity? I don't know how to say it. Are we suspicious that awakening is around the corner, and that is why we kind of curl up in
that would be a way of talking about it. It may show up that way for you or for several people, and other people it'll have a different kind of shape or aspect to it that might have a different kind of story, but it's also about separating or acknowledging some kind of separation that's just not true. It's not true. You don't even have to awaken. In a fundamental sense, it's already here. Just don't do anything with it. You don't have to be somebody else. You actually get to be exactly what came into this particular realm we call the human realm, or the 6 realms. And this will not last. Who you actually are is way, if you use relative descriptions, way more profound and vast than the petty mind, the everyday mind, the discursive mind, the picking and choosing and fussing and critical mind. That's just a function of believing the illusion and fighting with your world, fighting with other people in your world about boundaries and walls and ownership and control. It's painful. As the Buddha said, life, being alive, is suffering. Very simple truth that he taught. Yes, sir.
Shoto bowing. That reminds me, I think in one of the precepts that was talked about yesterday, the idea of there's only Buddha activity.
Yes,
Is that the case even if we're not seeing that?
yes, come through, please. Yes, it's the case. It's an ultimate understanding.
Jen has her hand up too.
More?
Shoto bowing. Is there a need to, I guess I'm asking, are there two different kinds of Buddha activity? Like,
No. No, I don't know. There's not even the number two. This is something we invented so that we can control stuff. That's why the way the Dharma is taught here, not just me talking, but the way we study these texts is not, you're not going to be tested on this. That's a different kind of learning. You may have to do that in order to do auto repair or to work with cognitive behavioral processes in the therapy situation, or brain spotting, or any of the other things that are used in that way. You may have to learn about those structures in order to do that, just like carpentry or anything else. But the spiritual path, no testing. There is no gradation. This is a spiritual path of transcendence, not a mundane path of stair steps, though it's going to show up that way initially. That's all I do as a Dharma teacher, is to try to get you to see what it is you're stepping on. Yes, sir.
Shoto bowing, why on the path, just speaking for myself as a student, why does it look like there's unclear activity and that the teacher's contrasts that your activity is clear?
It will look that way until you see that there's not, you and I are not separate. There's separation. This body's here, that body's here, but the fundamental situation is not separate at all. Not even the same. Not one, not two. Not, you can't find the numbers don't work in that area. It's like the ancient teaching that in the Upanishads of neti, not this, not this, not this. You can't, anything you see is not, that's not it yet. Everything is it. You could also say this, everywhere you look it's that's it. Everything that arises in the mind is that is it. If there's a realization, then everything just stops happening. You know, and everything it does continuous, you see that it's unreal. And it's that's a good idea. Jishin.
Jishin bowing. If we return to stillness, is it the same stillness where nothing happens?
Yes. Yes, it is. Jen.
Jennifer Bowing, what is the power in intention?
The power and intention is it's like anti-gravity. It goes beyond the relative intention and result. It's the intention to see the truth. So it takes with it the truth is we're not looking at a relative situation. We're looking at absolute truth. It's Paramartha Satya is a Sanskrit. Sambriti Satya, everyday truth. This is solid, that's a sound. I'm over here, you're over there. Relative truth is the illusion. Ultimate truth is you can't see it, you can't find it, because who you are is actually not separate from it. Imagine this awareness is showing up as human forms, and showing up as raccoons, showing up as birds, showing up as insects. It's just an incredible, astonishing display of consciousness entering into the formal structure of illusion. And then that which is looking at this is also the illusion, looking at the illusion until you see what it is. And then everything completely collapses. The otherness is gone. And everywhere you look is a mirror. Everywhere you look is ultimate reality. And can you see it? No, because you're not separate from it. If you separate if you try to make a philosophy of it or separate yourself from it, then it becomes just more trying to do something and make up stuff. I was going to say shit, but I didn't say that. We want to make up stuff, and we should. You should write stories, paint pictures, build buildings, help people, find a way to help people. We're going to build a community mindfulness center next door. How's that gonna help people? I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe it won't. But it's the intention that is important, not the result. That doesn't mean that we don't try to have a result. It doesn't mean that you don't get to the cushion. It doesn't mean that you don't sit down, hold still, and watch the movement and the stillness of the mind stream. Please do this as much as you can. Do it the rest of your life. At some point, you may stop meditating at some point, or you might meditate more. You can do this. I know you can. I'm positive. I'm absolutely convinced that anyone who is not because my words are so great, but because I'm addressing something that is in everyone here, or you would not be here. You already know about this. And I'm saying, just look at it. Don't add, subtract, or divide. Do no math at all. Let the whole damn thing collapse. What is real is not threatened by anything. Who you actually are can't be threatened because it doesn't come into existence. So it can't pass out of existence. There is an existence, non-existence is, from the point of view of reality is what? It's an illusion. It just looks very convincing because of the nerve endings. Yes, sir.
Sokuzan, how does leaving the intention for a result fuel the self-centeredness?
It's just materialism. We're trying to get somewhere and move this and move that so we can win, so we can get ahead, so we can checkmate. Nothing wrong with it, but it's a game. There's no outcome to it. The outcome that is there is a relative one, and it is pretty meaningless. What does actually have meaning, you need to find that out yourself so you know.
Sokuzan, when it seems like it's obvious that there's no payoff, or that it's why do we continue to look for results?
We want stuff. That's why I continue to look. Don't you want stuff? Anybody here not want stuff? Yeah. So what do you really want to know? That's the one I want to answer.
Why does the warfare continue even when we don't want it to?
Okay, let's do it this way. You've heard me say before, don't go to the why question, go to the what question. You go to why, you're going to get a because. So why because? Why is the moon increasing in light? Because is this the way it's going around away from the what is that? How does that work? If the light, the moon, you know what I mean, don't you? Yeah. But fundamentally, what we want, what we're looking for, we already are. There isn't anything else with this. And it's this is when Trungpa Rinpoche talks about sacred world. It's sacred, completely sacred. There's sacred and profane are not two different things. They just show up that way. Completely sacred, holy. Like when Bodhidharma is addressing or responding to what was that emperor's name? Wu. Emperor Wu in what, fifth century? Young, was that in the 5th century? What dynasty was that?
I don't know, 不知道, but I can look it up.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. How do you say thank you in Mandarin?
谢谢。
谢谢. What was your question? Can you paraphrase your question or ask it again, and then we'll close?
Sokuzan. Maybe a statement. It looks like when warfare, confusion arises, and I'm tired of that, but it arises anyways, that I'm continuing to look for a result. So what is that warfare that continues whether I want it to or not?
It's just a conditioned arising. There's just no self there. You don't have to stop karma. You don't have to stop this cause that, cause that, cause that. You're here because of all kinds of causes and conditions, way beyond just your mom and dad. There's all kinds of things. It's their mom and dad, and it's just a labyrinth of otherness that is an illusion, but it doesn't mean it isn't functioning. It just pushes on that, pulls on this, shuts this down, opens this up. It's an illusion. All you have to do is just look at that. That's what Shikantaza is about. Sit down, hold still, watch everything come and go. Don't fix anything. Nothing's broken. Everything is fundamentally perfect. This is an ancient teaching. Been around since the Buddha, probably way before then. Comes out of the Upanishads also, before the Buddha showed up.
How is that the Buddha?
How is what the Buddha?
That confusion that arises.
Because it's awake. You can't know about it unless it's awake, unless you're awake. So you are awake. You just don't know it. And that's because there is a you feeling in there that thinks it should be something else. That's the extra stuff you add on of me, the independent narcissism or self-centeredness that is identified with the body-mind complex as somebody. It is a privilege, complete privilege, and to just be a living being, to have consciousness come into this realm and experience this separation. And there are billions of people doing this that have the opportunity to see what this is. Most of them will not. Most of them will go back into consciousness without really having an understanding of what this is. You don't have to do that. Michael, did you had your hands up? You have a question?
Shanji.
Oh, that's right. What does that mean?
Mountain of compassion.
Thank you for reminding me. Shanji, please, it might take a while for me to, how are you doing with that? Are you remembering it okay? Are you
Not the same as you?
I like that. Okay.
My
Shanji.
question is, to paraphrase his question,
Yes.
what is war?
Peace. Polarity. You can't separate the two. And I think it's Sanji, right? Rather than Shanji. Shan would be Mandarin, and San would be Nippon.
Yes, it is difficult changing your name.
It is. I keep wanting to call myself that other name.
It kind of demonstrates that names are just illusions.
Yeah. Certainly true. Yes, sir.
Is it an illusion to believe that we can somehow change an illusion?
Yes. Everything's an illusion. Any idea, even the Buddha is an illusion, but it's a teaching structure so that you can be encouraged to see that you are already awake. Nothing has ever slept anywhere. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Shoka. I'm a monk at SokukoJi, where I'm committed to training my mind under the guidance of my teacher, Sokuzan. We rely on your support for our programming, including a scholarship fund to cover living and tuition costs for those who are practicing full-time at the monastery. Thank you for your generosity.